fire right along. It's been a while since I put anything out. There's not a whole lot going on. But I figured as I meandered across the Texas Panhandle here, headed back to Colorado, I'd just let her roll for a while. I don't know that I've talked about Texas all that much, but they say everything's bigger in Texas. They're not kidding. Just about everything is. I spent the last 4 days in Texas, basically. Most time I've spent here in any one shot, and really do enjoy it. Really do like Texas quite a bit. Where I'm at right now, they're saying up to 65 mile an hour gusts of wind. A couple of tornado warnings yesterday. I haven't seen anything pop up today. I don't think we're the direction I'm headed and whatnot. I'm not really concerned about it. One of the things I do notice out here is my coverage of the weather radio is pretty spotty. But when you figure the amount of ground you're trying to cover, not all that surprised. Had a couple of great pickups, great people to work with. My goodness, everywhere I went out here, dropping off, picking up, it's really easy, and seemed like everyone took their job seriously, and it's nice to see. Not saying it doesn't happen everywhere, because it does. Just I noticed a trend, I guess. Thinking I was going to get into some heavier weather, but maybe I'm not. I don't know. We'll let her roll for a while and see what happens. I got my vehicle avoidance equipment installed finally. Although had them all back ordered. So at 118,000 miles, I finally get that installed. And here's my assessment on it. I definitely think the one that they installed in the 2023 model, Volvo, is significantly better than previous versions. It's a smaller unit, and it seems not to have a lot of the problems that the other units did. The biggest issue I had with previous vehicle avoidance stuff was that if you had somebody like this guy in front of me right now, if he were to turn right to make a turn off of particularly the interstate, but any divided highway or like that, if he were to take it and come off of an off-ramp, oftentimes he would still be in my the detection system's radar, basically. And if he's slowing down fairly rapidly and making that move over there, but hasn't cleared, made it clear over into a clearly defined lane, the older model Volvos would just start applying the brakes, and it wasn't subtle. It was applying the brakes pretty hard. And if I had slip road at all, that would definitely be an issue. And I got to where I could see it coming, and I'd kind of like fight it with the throttle. And generally, that would mitigate that braking action. But if it were to do that and you weren't on top of your game, it was like that's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. Other than that, though, it's right now I've got it set on the medium setting for distance, and it's maintaining my distance from this vehicle in front of me. And I think that its distances and how it relates with my intuition are pretty close. Certainly when there's heavier traffic, I want to be a little tighter in than this system will allow. And that can be irritating because, you're going to have somebody between me and the guy in front of me that's, halfway in between. It's going to come in, cut over on me, and then be not up to speed yet because I'm pulling out of lane of traffic or something. And that causes me the system will start applying brakes again when I don't want them applied. I see what's going on. I know that I've got plenty of room to get off the throttle, let him get up to speed because I know exactly what he's doing. But of course, the system doesn't recognize it. It doesn't have that type of processing available to it. And so, to me, that really is a good indicator where the problem is with autonomous vehicles. I mean, it's one of the many problems with autonomous vehicles, in that it doesn't allow for that extra level of reasoning of knowing people's habits. I can see what a guy's doing behind me, 5 or 6 cars back or even further back, and if I can see that he's relatively aggressive, and he's coming up aggressively, and he's going to be most likely cutting into my lane and accelerating hard, I can adapt my driving habit, my defensive driving posture, let me put it that way, in order to recognize that issue, whatever it might be. And I can adjust where I am positioned in traffic. I can adjust where I am in my following distance. I can adjust a lot of things in anticipation of someone doing X, Y, or Z. And it's not to be aggressive driving, it's to be proactive, and that's another level of computing that's taking place that's intuitive to the brain, and that is something that, as of yet, the autonomous vehicle community, correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't been able to address that yet. Same way with bad weather, same way with making adjustments where I can see, 3 miles ahead, 4 miles ahead, what's going on with the traffic pattern that I can make a mental adjustment on, that the autonomous side is not doing. And certainly they can get the same data set, an even better data set than what I've got, but they're still not bringing in the human factor into the whole equation. And I think that's just kind of one part of this whole autonomous driving thing that's not going to be developed anytime real soon. And the other one, of course, inclement weather. There's lots of people that are going to tell you inclement weather. You can have all the data in the world going into a computer system, and that data is only raw data. There's some. Oh, come on, dude. Slow down. It's cool. At least you kept going. Lost my train of thought there. All those factors can be there, but it still takes some deductive reasoning in order to do something with that data set. And, just like passing that disabled truck on the side of the road, when the guy's standing there right next to the vehicle, but at least he's looking at traffic. He's looking at you coming at him. That's something that I can determine, as opposed to someone who's not paying attention, who's not looking, or is hanging on the step, trying to climb up a step and lose their grip or something like that. I can take all those bits of information into account, as well as the human element, and say, hey, the likelihood of this guy slipping is not something that I'm willing to take a risk on. So I'm going to slow down more, or I'm going to widen my distance away from him based on that little bit of information. Same way with the disabled vehicle. If I'm pulling up to a disabled vehicle and I see on the side of the road that it's got a whole bunch of road grime all over it and orange flags on it, I'm not going to take a risk jumping across a lane to get in to get into another lane and block someone who's coming up behind me at a fairly rapid clip, in order to avoid someone stepping out of that vehicle, because I know through deductive reasoning that there's nobody in that vehicle, hasn't been for days. And so I'm going to adjust my driving habit based on that. Autonomous systems don't do that. I'm sure that they're capable of doing a lot of those things, but there still isn't that deductive reasoning aspect to it. So anyhow, back to the system that Volvo has installed here. I'm pretty happy with it for the most part. It does a pretty darn good job of maintaining good following distance. And if traffic's slowing down and I don't have my head in the game as well as I ought to, not that I ever try to do that, of course, but it does shoot me an alarm saying, hey, this guy's slowing down significantly faster than perhaps you're paying attention to. And so that's where the autonomous aspect is important and does work and is a safety measure. So anyhow, I guess that's my take on it. So far, my assessment is it's pretty good. It's not real good in city traffic. I would love, as a driver, to have the option to have a toggle switch to just kill it, for 10 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes when I'm in those types of situations where I'm like, look, I'm the supercomputer here, and let me make those decisions right now because the situation calls for it. And as a professional driver, I would hope that the powers that be that make those determinations, whether it be insurance or management or whatever else, I would hope that they would be able to kind of advocate for that. Let's default to the supercomputer when it comes to certain situations and give them the levity to make those decisions. Unfortunately, that means that supercomputer has to be properly trained, has to know what they're doing, has to be paying attention, etc., etc. So, anyhow, there's my autonomous vehicle input. Take it as you will, leave it as you will. I do find it very fascinating watching it, how it's evolved and how rapidly it's evolving. And I do have fear that the autonomous, especially in the heavy side, the transportation logistics side, could be endangering other people more so than a human being that's trained, that knows what they're doing. I just don't think you're going to be able to replicate that human factor, at least at this point, well enough for me to feel that they're really truly safely going down the road. They're going to default to a safety, and sometimes you have to take a little bit of risk, sometimes you have to hit the throttle when it's not intuitive, or it's not what the algorithm would normally call for. but you see all the other variables in play, and you know that's the best thing to do. I've had that happen several times, where I made a decision that was counterintuitive or counter to what a autonomous algorithm would be normally dictating, because they're going to go for the fail-safe. They're going to go for the safe side something, and sometimes the quote-unquote safe side is in fact not. So anyhow, have a good one. Thanks for listening to me, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for riding along.